Hi there and welcome to this fourth video on Django-Ninja. In this video we're going to take a look at how to upload files to an API endpoint that we are creating with Django-Ninja. And you can see in the documentation here that we've got a few objects that help us with working with files. We've got a file object and an uploaded file object. The uploaded file object is an alias to the Django upload file that you get when you upload a file to a view in Django. So we're going to see how to work with that in this video. So let's get started. Now we want to upload a file using a Django template. We're going to create a form that will allow us to upload a file. So we'll create a templates directory within the tracks app. And within the templates, we're going to create an index.html. And we'll just put in test in there. And what we can do now is create a view, a normal Django view, which will render that template. We'll call that index, takes in the request, and it renders the request along with that index.html template. Now the final step in this basic setup is we're going to create a URL which will point to that particular view to render the template. So from tracks.views, we'll import the index view that we've just created, and we can create a path to that. And the path's going to go to index, and that will point to the index function. So with that setup, we've got the server running here. So if we go to localhost index, you see that we get that text on the screen. So now that we've set that up, what we want to do is create a Ninja endpoint. And that's going to be in the API.py, which contains the CRUD app that we've built up until now. So we're going to create another endpoint in here, and it's going to be an API.post request to the upload endpoint. And we'll call the function upload, and as always it will take the request as a first parameter, and the second parameter to that function is going to come from the Django-Ninja documentation. I'm just going to copy this code here. This takes a file and it type hints that as an uploaded file object. So let's copy that in, and what we can do now is, first of all, we'll pass on that function. We need to import these constructs from Django-Ninja, so I'm going to copy this code and we can import these at the top. Just get rid of that. So that's us got the import set up. Now we can write the body of this function. So what we've got here is a file that we can use, and the file is something that we can read into some data. So data equals file.read. Now the upload file in Django has a .read method that will read the entire file into memory. So be careful that that's not a very large file. You probably wouldn't want to do this in a production application. That reads it into a bytes object in memory, which you can decode to a string in Python. So when you have that data, you can do anything you want. You can save it to the file system. You can do anything you want with that data. What I'm going to do is return a simple response here containing some keys and values. Now the name of the file is available through the file.name attribute, and we can also return the data itself, which we've decoded here as data. Now this is one way to read the file and return a response, but you'd probably want to save this to the file system, but we'll just go with this for now. So now the last step is to build the template that is going to allow us to upload a form. Now we've got a bit of text here, we're going to get rid of that, and I'm going to copy paste some code in. This is an HTML form. The method is post. It's going to be a post request, and it's going to go to this URL, this action attribute here, and we're using the URL template tag in Django, and the name of the URL is API-1.0.0 upload. Now what is that? That is a namespaced URL, which now you can typically give URLs names in urls.py, such as name equals index. It's the third parameter to the path function. However, what we need to do in Django-Ninja is we don't have that option. We directly create the URLs using the decorator, and in urls.py we simply reference the URLs attribute. So what we can do is actually pass another parameter to this decorator, and it's the URL name parameter, and I'll say upload, and this URL name should match what's in index.html here, namespaced by this app name, which is API, and that should allow us to send a post request to the upload endpoint that's referenced in this API.py file and this is the endpoint that will then read that file and decode it, read the data and return a response. So let's try that out now. We're going to reload the front end here, and now we get a very basic HTML form. So let's hit the browse button and let's upload the requirements.txt file. And if I submit that file, you see that we get a response containing the file name, which is requirements.txt, and we get a string version, a JSON version of the data with the requirements as a string. And that is basically what we had here, the file name and the file data. So that's how we take a Django-Ninja API endpoint and we use that to read in file data that's being sent from a client. Now, I want to show one last thing about Django-Ninja in this tutorial. Django-Ninja offers this convenient feature. It gives you automatic documentation for your endpoints. So localhost 8000/API, if we change the endpoint to docs, we'll get automatic Swagger documentation for our endpoints. Now this is the one we've just created. It's the API/upload one, and this takes in a file. That's the required field. So what this gives you is data on what the request body should be, what the response should be, and you can actually customize this in different ways. We have a very basic out-of-the-box setup, but it can be customized, which is very useful. Let's take, for example, the GET request that will get all the tracks in the database. You can see that you have an optional query parameter in the URL, the title string, which remember we use to filter down the data that's returned. And it also tells you the structure of the response. And the structure can be inferred, of course, from the response model. Let's go back to that endpoint. The response model was a list of track schema objects. So it can then look at the track schema and it can infer what kind of response you need to be getting from that endpoint. So that's very convenient. And for creating data, which you typically do with a POST request or a PUT request, it tells you the required body of the POST request. This is what data you need to send in order to create a resource in the database. So this is very convenient for your developers. You can give this documentation to front-end developers and they know exactly what endpoints are available, and they know what data gets sent to the endpoints and what data gets returned from the endpoints. And you get this for free with Django-Ninja. Very useful feature, so it's worth mentioning in this video. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. There will be some posts on the blog about this as well, and we'll see you in the next video.